Hello everybody, my name is Donovan Standing. I wrote a letter with a little bit of my life story, and as I needle myself to prepare for home hemodialysis, my wife is going to read it out. There is a trigger that I will be using needles and there will be a little bit of blood. So get ready for the process.
Hello everyone, my name is Donovan Standing Ready. I am using this platform to document my medical journey with kidney transplant. So right off, I'd like to say these opinions are my own, and I'm going to be telling my story and why I am doing these videos. I am a 34-year-old Dakota man. I am a husband and a father of 6. I was born with chronic kidney disease amongst other issues, but that is the main one. I was 24 years old when my kidneys started to fail. I was just 2 weeks newly married and coming home from a family trip from Winona, Minnesota, summer of 2012. I thought I had caught some sort of flu bug and I made an appointment with a doctor to get checked. Next thing I knew, I was on my way to Winnipeg getting prepped for emergency surgery to place a central line into my chest to start dialysis that night. My wife and I were stuck in Winnipeg, stuck at a hospital because I was now a hemodialysis patient. With discussions with my doctors and nurses, I was offered an upcoming dialysis program called the Home Hemodialysis Program. In this program, I would learn to give myself dialysis at home, eventually learning to needle myself, that I'd have to do it on my own without the assistance of any medical team. Fast forward to heading home 6 weeks later after finishing the program with this giant machine and a new major responsibility, having to keep myself alive with home hemo. At first it seemed okay and everything was fine. No problems with the machine itself. Then the nursing staff within the unit was incredible, and my family built a few relationships within the unit. Till this day, we still hold a few nurses close to our hearts. So within that time that I have started dialysis, the next question at hand would be how, where, when would I be eligible to receive a kidney transplant? I was young with a son and a wife. I didn't want to be a dialysis patient forever. My wife and I didn't even go on a honeymoon. Till this day, we had not yet been able to take that trip. As silly as that sounds, that's one thing as a couple we would still like to do. With this dialysis, I cannot leave the unit for very long, 2 days max. Then I start to feel sick from needing a treatment. We never got too far for long. We started looking for a donor before the option was even offered to us. We started asking families, then friend, then my wife's family. But with no luck, we didn't have anyone who was willing to give me a kidney. As heartbreaking as that was, I eventually was able to get a donor, and it was from a cousin of mine. After having conversations with my kidney team, I informed them that I was interested in a kidney transplant and began the steps to get on to the transplant list. I still do not understand why I was not prepped to be on the deceased donor's recipient list. We got all the necessary testing done for my donor and I. We were so close to getting to the operating room. Unfortunately, my donor got cold feet and pulled out weeks before I was to begin my new life. After that devastating news, I began to experience anxiety and depression. At first, I didn't even know what it was. Now I know I began to suffer from those kinds of things. I was so close to no longer having to be a prisoner in my own home, a prisoner for the home hemodialysis program. The life we had been planning was taken away, and I was stuck again. No other donor stepped up when I asked. I couldn't understand why no one wanted me to live. Living on dialysis has taken so many life opportunities and experiences, I felt like I was a failure. My small family and I had no choice but to make the best of it. By the time our family had grown, I was a father of 2, a son and a daughter. As I can remember, Then I was offered to be on the deceased donor list. I was just living on dialysis as many others do. I really don't think anyone understands the way it is to really live on dialysis. Yes, I was grateful to be alive, but I wasn't really living. Just living for the next treatment, and this went on for years. In my late 20s, I had a problem with my heart, which was the result of combination of two things: being born with weak organs and the damage of no kidney function and dialysis. I was looking at an open heart surgery. I needed to have the heart valve replaced. It was one of the most scary and unsure things I had ever gone through. Having a medical staff with their hands in my chest holding my heart, fixing it. With the help of doctors, nurses, family support, and creator, I made it through that operation and made a full recovery. And I was then on the road to get back into kidney transplant list. I had to begin a new medication that I will now have to take for the rest of my life due to my heart surgery. My wife and I began to expand our family. We ended up having a miscarriage after my heart surgery. A few months later, we found out we were expecting again. We attended all the appointments, did all the ultrasounds. We were going to be parents again. Like with our older children, we are ecstatic to be bringing a new little life, a bundle of joy into our family. It was near the end of my wife's pregnancy. The doctors noticed something abnormal on one of the last scans we were to have before baby was born. We had no idea what they were looking for. We were sent to Winnipeg to the fetal clinic. That day of the assessment and an hour-long scan, we were told our baby had major heart issue defect. How did that go? Miss the entire pregnancy. We had no time to prepare. We were forced to stay in Winnipeg for the remainder of the pregnancy. A month in a hotel of being unsure of the outcome of our very wanted and loved baby. We were given options of what it could be with his heart. They wouldn't know for sure until he was born. All potential scenarios given to us were not good. The day came when our son was born, and he was a healthy 7 pounds, 14 ounces, 21 inches. He didn't look sick. He didn't act sick. On the surface, he was as healthy as a baby could be. They rushed him off to the NICU and began their tests to see exactly what was wrong with him. To our surprise, everything they told us was wrong in a sense. He did have a heart defect, but it was not as severe as they thought it was, but he would need surgery eventually. When was the question? We were flown to Edmonton's Children's Stollery Hospital to further treatment for him. After 4 weeks, he was showing signs of needing his surgery, but at least his body gave him time to get bigger and stronger. He underwent his surgery, and it was a success. That was the most scary thing I had gone through with my family. He made a full recovery, and we were sent back to Winnipeg to finish his hospital stay. All the while, my transplant was put on hold during this time due to my son's medical issues. We finally got to bring our baby son home when he was 2.5 months old. It was a beautiful Christmas, just me, my family, all safe and healthy under one roof. The real nightmare began a week after that. My new son contracted RSV, a potentially deadly disease for infant heart patients. He was then admitted to Manitoba's hospital in the children's ward. To my wife and I, he should have been sent to Winnipeg Hospital where his doctors were. He would have received the proper treatment for his condition. They neglected to make those calls despite us asking for them to do so. Throughout the night, my son began to decline fast. Oversaturation of saline fluids through IV, his lungs began to fill with fluid, and his heart began to fail. He went from stable to unstable. He was life-flighted to Winnipeg's Children's Critical Care Unit, and I could see the anger in the new doctor's eyes as we explained to her the events leading up to this tragic time. She expressed how angry she was that they didn't follow protocol and have him sent out the moment he was admitted. We were informed while he was in the air they had to bring him back. They almost lost him, but that night we did lose him. We lost our miracle baby, the most devastating thing we had ever experienced, anyone could have ever experienced. This is the biggest loss of our lives. We were lost and empty. Just 2 weeks after Christmas, I lost my newborn son. This took an entire new toll on my life and my heart. My health began to decline, and I lost a lot of weight. I lost my will to live. It took us a very long time to be okay, but we ended up getting pregnant again, and a new gift came to us. A year later, almost to the day when we lost our son, we found out it was going to be a baby girl. It was a completely healthy, normal pregnancy. It sounds like I'm rambling, but remember, this is almost 10 years of life happenings. Shortly after the birth of my daughter, we were again started the journey back to transplant. This time around, I found another donor, and this time I made sure he was sure about doing this. At this point, I knew I couldn't take any other more letdowns. We went through all the testing. I did all the testing to the best of my abilities. Things come up here and there, and life happens. It's hard to slow down sometimes when you learn to live every day to the fullest, because in my position, tomorrow is never promised. I received a call from transplant. I was put on a 6-month probation for non-compliance. I was to put my entire journey on hold. They called it non-compliance. I called it not understanding. I made the call I was supposed to make to cover for my absence during an appointment. Whomever I told these events failed to mention it to the other staff at my clinic, which in return resulted in this non-compliance suspension. By this time, 8 years into dialysis, I saw nurses and staff come and go. I no longer had friends within this unit. I no longer had anyone who had my back or my best interests. I was discriminated against, and I had to fight so hard just to get respect that I deserved from these people who thought they knew who I was. They didn't know me or my story. They didn't take time to understand my way of life. I didn't live like this I didn't live like the rest of their patients. I had a complete different lifestyle than an average person. We live a very traditional, ceremonial, spiritual life. We follow our way of our ancestors. We keep that old way of life alive. There was a constant within the unit. It was my amazing doctors. They had been the most compassionate doctors I've had in my life. They fight for me every day. They write the letters I need for my health and safety. Without my doctors, I would not have been able to fight the higher ups in this business just to live a normal life. Then the entire world shut down. Not just me was on hold, but the entire world was on hold. A global pandemic. Even though I was on probation, I had no choice to endure 2 years of waiting. Everyone's life was on hold. Thankfully, we made it through without being infected. It's so heartbreaking for those who have lost their lives and loved ones during this time. But let's rewind a few years. I received the new dialysis machine. It was supposed to be the best new thing on the market, and I beg to differ. I never had any problems with my old bulky machine, but with recommendations from my staff because they began to phase out the old machine. This machine takes 10 times longer to set up and has more room for error. Technical support sometimes takes days to get a problem fixed. We've had more problems with this machine than any other household appliance in my home. If for any reason I needed an emergency treatment, I'd still have to wait 7 hours for this treatment, which sometimes I'd end up in an emergency room somewhere asking for help. A lot of the times I'd have to make my way to Winnipeg 4 hours away just to receive assistance. I do not recommend this new machine to anyone. Like I said in the beginning, these are my views and opinions based on my own personal experience. Nothing or no one can say these were wrong, because if you haven't gone through any of these things I've gone through, could you even say I was wrong? Does this sound far-fetched? Yes, of course it does. But this is the life I live. I fight every day to get up to get what I need to get done. There needs to be reform in the transplant business. There needs to be people who have an understanding of others' lives working within this corporation. We are back in today's time and day, 2021. I began the process of transplant after the world caught its footing and we're back to somewhat normal living. The process, as I suspected, was going to be hard, but for some reason, it's harder on me. This time around, I feel like I do everything I'm supposed to do, and I am not perfect, but they ask you to be perfect. They set hoops for me to jump through, and I jumped them. They raise the hoops even higher, and I try my best to make them, but I miss. Like I said, I have to be perfect. Perfect in a body that will not allow me to be perfect. All the surgeries and procedures I've gone through, most of them could have been prevented, and had I even received a deceased donor. All that pain and suffering I feel was for nothing. I was told before the end of the year I'll have my transplant, but just last week I received some more bad news that once again I'm on another 6-month probation. Even after doctor's letters and recommendations, after the go-ahead from my heart doctors, even after they have been informed I have nowhere else to put my fistula vein, the complications of a line in my chest could cause, I was denied again for something that I 100% caused from the result of my dialysis. I do not get proper blood flow to the hand. I do not get proper blood flow to my hand due to my fistula stealing blood from my lower arm. In turn, caused my hand to deteriorate. I had no control over the situation, but I made decisions to save my hand and save my spot on the transplant list. I had to bridge my blood thinners, then in which sent my INR out of control. Then in a blink of an eye, life happens. My kids got sick and I had no choice but to put them first as anyone would. That's where transplant caught me. Something that was direct fault due to my condition I was punished for. How is this fair? How is something I cannot control become a deciding factor in being thrown back down the transplant list? How much longer do I expect my donor to put his life on hold? How much more money do I need to be spending making these appointments for myself and for my donor? Where do they think this is justifiable? I've been fighting this fight for 10 years. This is why I've come to this. To document every single thing, to prove to the team the gift of life that I have been doing everything I need to do to receive a transplant. And I'm going to go through all avenues to get my story heard. Even if I have to tell the media, social media, anyone out there listening who can help. I feel like I'm not being heard and I'm not being treated fairly. For what reason, I have no idea, and I need answers. I need to be given the chance to live a normal life with my family. I'm a young father. My kids have had to watch my struggle with my health their entire life, and I want to be able to give my kids everything they deserve. They deserve to have a healthy father, and I deserve to live a healthy life. In my opinion, systematic racism plays a role within my situation, and I have yet to be proven it isn't otherwise. Like I said before, my nephrology physicians, cardiac physicians have been nothing but amazing to me and my family, and I cannot thank them enough. And I am sorry this has taken so long to get to my point across, but in order for my reason to be understood, I had to tell my story. Of course, this is a shortened version of my life's events. The next step is to record short videos of me and my journey until I am completely approved for this transplant. I'm taking my power back, and I'm showing these people that I have done everything they had asked me to do, and they will have no excuse to take my life away anymore. Do I have to be dead for my story to be heard? Do I have to be close to dying to receive a transplant?
So with that, I just want to say that we're going to be doing short videos and posting every day, just for proof that every single time I take a pill, every single time I have an appointment, every single time I do my dialysis, it's all on record. And you guys could ask questions, you guys could maybe share, give it a like. So thanks for your time for this evening, and have a good evening.